Peak performance is a standard that very few achieve. I mean, let's face it, if it were easy, everyone would do it. So, why do teams need more elite performers? And what does it cost to become an elite performer? We're going to talk about that and more today. Let's get ready to lead above the grind. All right, great day, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda Show, where I am hoping we manage to minimize the crazy technical difficulties that we had last week and do a little bit better this week. So I want to welcome all of you to your cup full of inspiration, revelation, and wit for today's Savvy Leader. So we are into season 7. This is episode 80 of the Coffee with Rhonda show. And we're super excited to have you all here with us. Before we introduce our co-host and our guests, we are going to just ask you to do a couple of things. Number one, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please visit coffeewithrhondashow.com and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And take a moment to like and share this video because there is someone out there who will get something out of this message and they will appreciate you for sharing it with them. So my name is Rhonda Y. Williams and I'm your host of this show. And I am what I like to call an arsehole or a recovering stressed out leader. And so today we are going to talk more about elite leadership. And don't mind us, we've got folks bouncing around and in and out and it's a little bit crazy, but the show must go on, so we will keep it moving. So today, I really believe that we must modernize leadership, right? We've got to start to look at leadership a little bit differently so that it includes the components of well-being and growth. And so I am also the founder of Leadership Above the Grind Mentoring and Coaching Academy, where we do global work to help leaders become elite at every level. So I am really, really excited. So today in my cup, I have this is my cup that I picked up when I was in Qatar. And so it's super jazzy and cool and very colorful, and it just makes me feel good. So that's the cup that I have today. And in my cup, I have more of my coffee that I had when I was in Ecuador. So that's what's happening with me. I see folks out there. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll get to you all in just a second. But first, I want to introduce my guest and say hello and welcome to the coffee table, Bret. It's so great to have you here. Uh-oh, you might be muted. All right, I can't hear you. Huh. All right, so let's see. Try that again. No? Oh, no. All right, he's going to maybe pop out and pop back in. All right, he's going to pop out and pop back in. So in the meantime, our conversation today is going to be on elite leadership. And I think today's show is going to test us all on a little bit of that elite leadership also. Once again, I feel like every week is a test of our strength and our character and our ability to push through. So So good morning, ladies. So Mireille, you want to say hello to everyone? Say, tell us who.
Hello.
I can hear you. Wonderful. Hi there.
Wonderful. Yeah, I had to change my microphone. So, hello, everyone. This is Mireille, the greatness engineer. So happy to be here and to be able to be audible because it has been very difficult. As you know, I am all about greatness and I make sure people
Uh-oh.
understand their greatness and step in things and understand that they have an unlimited potential and not leave anything on the table. So that's me, and welcome to everyone.
Awesome. Mireille, do you have a cup today?
Yes, I have a cup, but I'm drinking water, warm water, because I was starting to have a little bit of sore throat. So I'm just gonna stay with warm water today.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, Roz, are you able to speak to us? I don't think so. I think she might be frozen. All right. So we're going to move Miss Roz down until we can get her back. So, welcome again to the coffee table, Bret. Hello. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us what you have in your cup.
Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Mireille. It's great. I've got my cup here. I've got some Cuban coffee here to really jolt me up for this, and I don't think I'll need it for this crew, but I'm really happy to be here, and I was honored to be invited to your program. So it's fantastic.
All right, welcome. Thank
Fantastic.
you so much, Bret. It's so great to have you here. I love the work that you do in the world. I've become such a fan in connecting and following you on LinkedIn and listening to your messages, and it is what I am all about. So we're going to dive into our conversation, but first, we're going to say hello to some of our folks out there. So Favor is out there. She says it's great to be here. Hi, Favor. Good to see you. Do you have a cup? And do you have anything in that cup? If you do, don't forget to share it with us. We also have out there Miss Barbara H. Smith. Hey there. Great rising, beautiful to you as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. You didn't tell us what you have in your cup, so I'm thinking it might be something just a little bit jazzy. And Favor says, I'm happy to be here. Oh, it's evening for Favor. That's right. She's actually dialing in from Nigeria. And then we also have Rachel out there. Hi, Rachel. Great to see you. And she says, go, Bret,
Hey,
go.
Rachel.
Love it. Love the energy in that, Rachel. We also have Nimrod out there. Good day from the Philippines. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Maria is out there. Hey, Miss Simonelli, how are you? Great to see you back here. Thank you so much for tuning into season 7. Always great to see you. Okay, and Barbara says she's got coffee in her cup. All right, it was just all in my mind. I was making it out to be more than it was. Of course. And Barbara says that coffee is Kenyan coffee in her cup. Okay, I got you. Favor's got water in her cup. And if my mom was on, she would certainly have something special in her cup. So I don't know where she is this morning, but Kirk is out there, and Kirk has Sundrop, which is soda from South Carolina. Kirk, I've never had Sundrop. So when next time I visit South Carolina, I will have to make a point to check that out. And then Favor says she has water in her cup. All right, everybody, let's dial in and let's get our conversation going today. So we are going to have a conversation about elite leadership. And I want to start by sharing this quote. And then I'll really get us to dial in a little bit. I want to talk about what is elite leadership. Let me get Miss Roz back in here. And all right, Ms. Roz, let's see. Can we hear you? Roz? I can't hear you. Now go to that little wheel icon and check your settings and see if it's something with one of your microphones. So we'll keep working on that. Now you're on screen. So at any point, Miss Ross, take yourself off screen. Like if you want to scream or make a crazy face or do something wild, you can just take your one off the screen. Yes. Blast it.
I've got an idea. Hey, Roz, take some coffee and pour it on the computer. Maybe it just needs to wake up.
The computer needs a little bit of caffeine. So I want to start with this quote. So I'll share this quote and then get us all to react to it.
Rhonda, I can't hear you.
Oh, that's because I hit mute on my microphone.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Yep.
It's always helpful, when you actually unmute yourself. That works. That works well. So I want to get your reactions to that quote. Mireille, let me start with you, and then I'm going to go to Bret. And Bret, as you react to it, I also want you to set the tone for us. I wanted you to describe what an elite leader or an elite performer is, and then we're going to use your definition to power the rest of our conversation. So, Mireille, your reactions to that quote.
My reaction to that quote, I could actually read it because I was actually saying something. But when talking about elite leadership, it's for me, it's all about excellence, being able to bring excellence on whatever you're doing, and being the leading figures, because leadership is about, it starts with us. So bringing this excellence and being able to inspire the people that we lead is what I call elite leadership for me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's getting to that level of excellence. And Bret, so build on that for us. So Roz, I don't know if we can hear you. I want to keep checking in with you just because I want to make sure that I get your voice in if you can communicate with us. So can you say something? Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear you. Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear you. All right. Roz is like, I'm going out. Okay, so Bret, build on that for us. How do you think about elite leadership and elite performance?
Sure, and let me start by, I think that's a great foundation that Mireille just laid out for us there, and just a little bit of a backdrop. It took me 19 years for myself to really learn what leadership was. I had the management part down. We could talk about that later if you want, but I was an excellent manager. I was with the same company for 19 years, and then I changed companies, and I started to sink. And so we can go down that pathway later if you want to. But what I basically learned after that 19 years, and for the other 11 years in my corporate global career, was that leadership is really about the ecosystem that one creates so that everybody can perform at their potential. And that recognizes that everybody's potential is different. Rhonda's potential is different than Bret's potential is different than Mireille's potential. Everybody's different, right? And so to paint things with the same brush is a common mistake that I had made for actually 19 years. And I excelled at a lot of other things, but I did not excel at that, and almost failed in my career over this very point. So understanding that everybody's potential is different. So I wanted to lay that out as a backdrop, Rhonda. Now, let me get to your question. That's not elite performance or elite leadership. That's just kind of leadership in general. Elite leadership, in my view, is the first decile in the marketplace. So that's really having a look at the very first decile, the best of the best. Okay, that is specifically, here's the definition: it's resilient amidst adversity. And that's really what I look at, because this world that we live in is full of curveballs and problems and changes and COVIDs. I've been through 3 major crisis that all of you will be aware of. The Asian financial crisis. It got me actually from the U.S. over to Asia in 1998. I went. That crisis happened in 1997. I was in Japan in the aftermath of during and in the aftermath of 9/11. I was in London and then later Dubai and Africa in the aftermath of the global financial crisis. And those were three big crises. And what I learned during all of those three is that why are some people, some leaders, and some teams able to thrive despite a crisis, like Amazon has thrived, Zoom has thrived, Apple has thrived during the pandemic crisis? Why is that? Because if some people can do it, why can't more do it? And therefore, my mission to help people specifically amidst adversity. So I'm going to kind of stop right there. I hope, Rhonda, that kind of gives us something to peel the onion on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things you said is resilience amidst, did you say amidst challenge or a crisis?
Challenge, change, crisis, adversity, whatever. Let's use commercial airplane term. Let's say turbulence, right?
Oh, amidst turbulence. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So a couple of folks out there are really sort of dialing into this. First of all, Maria shared with us that she has mocha coffee with a splash of vanilla, keto friendly.
Oh,
all right. Don't say keto, Maria. You make me feel guilty because I should probably be doing more of that. So, and then we have hello from San Francisco Bay. My thought, and this is Crystal, that we are all Olympians at heart in mind, body, and spirit to inspire each other to be their best self and serve their highest purpose. Hashtag North Star. Crystal, absolutely love that. I mean, I think you sort of crystallized that leadership, right? Inspiring others to be their best selves. And we also have Padre, greetings from Ghana. Bret, looking great, and this is a good topic. Mom is out there. Hey, Mom, thanks for joining us. I knew you were going to have something fun in your cup. I was talking about you earlier, Mom. Peach mango cocktail in her cup today. And so we're getting people really starting to dial into this a bit, Bret. So I want to talk about, so Crystal says, what if adaptability could be the way of being for leadership, right? So let's go that route. Why don't we have more people who are aspiring to be elite, right? So when I talk to leaders, most leaders, let me just keep it 100. Most leaders are surviving, right? Most leaders are in survival mode. They're coming in, they're trying to get the work done, and they're going home, right? So they're really kind of in that survival mode. I talk to some leaders who really do strive for excellence. Right? They really want to show up. They want to be the best they can be. That's a critical part of who they believe themselves to be. I talk to very few leaders who strive for elite. Why is that? Why do we not have more leaders striving for elite? Mireille, let me come to you first, and then we'll swing back around to you, Bret.
Yeah, I think just to build on what Bret was saying, we are in a time where a lot of things are changing quickly. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's there's a lot of ambiguity. So there's a lot of scare, as a leader. People are really scared of taking the lead because they don't want to crash, they don't want to make any mistake, and they don't want to be responsible of leading people. That's been that's the fear that we've been seeing the last few years, and I would even say the last 10 years, where people just prefer to be managers, get direction, and really have clarity, and they're not really comfortable with the uncertainty that this new world is bringing, with everything, the digital on one side, and then the emotional on the other side. So how do you reconcile all of this as a leader? And I think that's really the question mark for a lot of people, let alone a high bar and telling them that they're going to excel in such an environment. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, and that's what we see reflecting in a lot of things that are happening right now, and and at the highest level of countries, at presidential level and below. So I think that's the way I see things right now.
Right. I love that you talked about fear, Mireille, because I think a lot of people, it's the reason they don't want to step out. When I talk to
Mhm.
leaders, if I say, so first of all, do you consider yourself to be a leader of excellence or elite leaders? First of all, people are uncomfortable with
Mhm.
owning that, right? People are uncomfortable owning that space. They're like, well, I don't know. Well, that's for others to, to judge me by and all of that, right? So, but then there's this other side of fear where people are like, I'm just trying to do my job. And I do think that that's accurate, Mireille. People are scared. I want to go back to a question because Kirk asked a question. And Bret,
Mhm.
as we come to you, I would love it if you could, number one, answer
Mhm.
Kirk's question and then bring us back to this conversation about why we are not aspiring to be elite leaders, right? What's holding us back, to build on Mireille's comment. So Kirk's question is, do elite leaders mingle work besides lower levels of staff to help train, manage, build character, outstanding future leaders? So Bret, I'm going to let you take that for us and then build on why more leaders are not attempting to be elite leaders.
Yes, Kirk, that's a great question. Thanks, Rhonda. Thanks, Mireille. Kirk, the answer to your question is yes, they do that. Full stop. Okay. And one of the issues that companies, leaders, and workers, the people that actually do the work, are going to encounter over the next decade is the Generation Y and Generation Z populations, because the current leadership um, is not tooled up, nor do they have the experience to lead those two very important generations that are very soon going to comprise the majority of the global workforce, right? And so, and the question, it begs the question, why is that? Okay, and this kind of gets into the broader topic that we're speaking about. Why aren't more aspiring to be leaders? And I think that's a very complicated question, and I'm going to attempt to answer that right now. So, number one, there's a mix of what we'll call leaders that have been appointed, and I'll just get the toxic part out of the way first, and then we'll talk about the aspirational part. Okay, the toxic part, they need to be removed. The question is, why are they there in the first place? Why are we talking about, in the year 2022, psychological safety? Why are we talking
Mhm.
about we need more women in leadership? Why are we talking about we need more women on boards? Okay, why are we talking about these things as well? I had the opportunity that I created. Okay, I had help along the way, but I created, to work outside of my home country, where I was the minority person at the table. Okay, I lived in Zambia for a year. I worked across, and I was accountable for the largest banks in Zimbabwe, Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique, Namibia, and Tanzania. Okay, with Barclays Africa at the time, and the CEOs of those countries reported to me. I Having that lens to look at what it feels like to be the minority. I wasn't discriminated against, right? But I was
Mhm.
actually able to feel for the first time, and I never could have felt this in America had I not gone outside. And I could tell you the same story about the Middle East. I could tell you the same story about, probably not the UK, but in across Asia, 12 countries in Asia Pacific, where, there were many times I was in Japan 6 years and led a team, and 80% of our meetings were in fluent Japanese, and I didn't speak fluent Japanese, right? So I understand that point. So one of the root causes of psychological safety, discrimination, lack of inclusive diversity mindset, which, by the way, my definition of that is quite simple. It's higher profits. Okay. We can talk about that later if you want as well. But why don't you have inclusive diversity? Why are we still talking about this? Because this should be in the DNA and in the fabric, okay, of how every business operates. So many of the leaders that were appointed, I'm going to get back on topic now with that as a backdrop. Many of the leaders today that were appointed don't subscribe to that. They were appointed by boys club type of people. That maybe they were a good salesperson, and then so they're all of a sudden in charge of all of sales. They have no idea how to connect, how to engage, how to inspire people as well, and how to make sure that every person, to Crystal's point earlier, actually feels, that they have a voice, not only a voice at the table, but they can actually, every human being. I don't believe that there's a such thing as a bad person when they're born. I just don't believe it. I believe everybody wants to succeed, but leaders, if they don't understand that everybody's different and without connecting to what the people need, there's going to be a gap and there's going to be biases, both conscious and unconscious. And so that's the toxic. So those people that don't have that, they need to go. Okay. They need to go to an individual contributor role. Some of them need to be fired. Some of them need to be punished. Okay, so that's not the majority, but that part, let's just ring fence. Now let's talk about the other part that are good, capable. Can leadership be developed? And it can, in my opinion. But many of the leaders that have been appointed to their current role, in my opinion, weren't ready for that. So they were very good at their individual contribution, and they just didn't have the mentorship, the coachings to why, Rhonda, do I need to, what does it take to really get engagement above HPO in a firm? Why, what do I need to do to connect with my people? Maybe I need to sit down and apply my engagement tools, ALA, ask, listen, and act, in that order, by the way. Many leaders come in and they start taking action, and then later they wonder, why isn't it working? Well, maybe they didn't ask and they don't understand the team that they're leading as well. And so a lot of these basic leadership gaps, people were just put in these positions without any sort of guidance. And that's why, back to the fear point, Mireille talked about the fear, right? That's in there. Well, of course they're going to be fearful because they've never had to. Well, now you're responsible for 250 people. And then they're scared because now the pandemic's coming, we're locked down. How am I going to make my revenue target? And what's going to happen here? Now they want to take out costs and all this other stuff. So instead of aspiring to be elite, to get ahead of the curve, because an elite leader, okay, so here's the question that you ask: why aren't more aspiring to be elite leaders? The answer, in my opinion, with all of that as backdrop, is that there are problems with the ecosystem or culture, meaning the same thing. So the environment that people operate in, what's driving a lot of this behavior, both toxic and non-toxic, and is the focus on short-term profit, okay, and putting profits before people instead of people before profits. Now, what does that really mean other than fancy words? Well, I'll tell you what it means. People before profit means that you put engagement first. It means that you put client centricity first, okay? Because by getting those two things optimized, you're going to have profits, but it's going to take longer because your long-term profits are going to be higher. You're not going to have lawsuits, number one. So you're not going to, so if you generate, one of the problems we have today is that a lot of short-term profits are up, doing really well on Wall Street. Look at JP Morgan, and they just paid $120 million fine for their bankers using WhatsApp to communicate instead of the approved systems. Well, but they made a lot of profit beforehand, but then they had to pay out $120 million. So if you look at the net of that, okay, that's my point on, you can make a short-term profit, but if you have to pay it out for wrongdoing because you didn't get the basics right, that's probably not so good. But the
So
boards,
Brett, I want you to
yeah,
stop there because you
sure.
said a lot, and I want
There's a
to
lot
dial
there. Yeah,
into a couple of things that you talked about. The
sure.
first one is when you talked about people over profit. So we've got, first of all, you guys out there watching, this conversation is rocking in the chat, right? You are really dialed in. And I want to go to something that Crystal said. Crystal said, what if hierarchy and bias was holding people back? And I think that's a little bit of what you're speaking to, right? So,
Yeah,
Crystal,
some
yes,
people.
that
Yeah.
absolutely happens. And I think in that place, as an individual contributor and an individual leader, I think you still strive for the elite levels. Work with what you got, right? Work where you are with what you got. Do what's within your control, recognizing that eventually someone will either see you or you will outgrow this organization who doesn't really see and value you for who you are, right? So I think that that's an important part. And then here's another great comment. Hey Jennifer, great to see you. So many leaders are taking the helm of dysfunctional organizations and are being dragged or punished by the inertia of it, the way they have always done it, even if they take the position with ideals of elite. There are so many factors stacked against them. And I do think that that part is true as well. I think that's about the leadership though, right? And the adversity that we speak of. And those of us that are elite leaders and striving for that and really going for that, stepping into that space of adversity. I'm going to go to the Greatness Minute. And when we come back from the Greatness Minute, I want to continue this conversation. I want to just dial into this a little bit more as we talk about if you are that person going for elite leadership, what's it costing you, right? Is there a sacrifice? What is it that it costs you, and what does it cost your organization? And after the Greatness Minute. Really quickly before I do that, I also want to speak to the people over profits thing because, Brett, I don't know if you agree with me, but I hold organizations accountable and responsible for the failure of developing their leaders. When you place that individual contributor in the role of leadership, you know they don't have leadership experience. You know they don't have training, coaching, and development, and you put them there anyway. And so then you're surprised with, oh, gee, now they're leading 100 people and it's not going so well. Where is their responsibility in terms of developing their people? So I'm doing executive roundtable conversations with leaders from around the globe now. And I love them because we're talking about their challenges. I did one yesterday. Brett, you know what? The folks on that call all said to me that none of them had effective leadership and development training. They do task training. They do, here's the task you need to do for your job. They don't do leadership training. And so then my next question was, when you promote a new leader who doesn't have experience, what is your training system like for that? And they said, we don't have one. And I'm going, okay, right? So come on now, people, this isn't rocket science, right? We have to take ownership of that as organizations. So you all chew on that for a minute. I love to get the audience reactions. We're going to go to our Greatness Minute and come back and talk some more.
Hello, everyone. This is Mireille, the Greatness Engineer, with you today. Welcome to the Greatness Minute. Today, I want to put an emphasis on the fact that we have greatness inside of us. And this greatness, we can unleash it wherever you are. So greatness starts with you. Greatness starts where you are. But to go to the next level, you need a plan and a purpose, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to grow. And greatness is about growing. Greatness is about going to outside your comfort zone. Greatness, it's about pushing yourself and realizing that there's no limit for you and everything is possible. So that's what I wanted to share with you. See you next time.
All right. So I love that, Mireille, that it really is inside of you. It starts with you. It has you in that comfort zone. And so I want to talk, though, about if you are pushing outside of that comfort zone, if you are pushing to that next level of great and elite, what is that costing, right? What is it costing, number one, you as the individual leader and contributor and performer, but also what is it costing? Is there a cost to the organization? I'm interested now in the cost of achieving eliteness. So, Mireille, let's start with you there.
Yeah, there's obviously a time cost, and that's what we were talking about with the organization. They don't want to put time, to train those leaders, to give them, the mentorship and coach them to become elite leaders. And so that's the first cost. And the second one is a mindset shift in the culture. So making sure that they create, the right mindset and the right culture for those leaders to strive and to really put everything that is possible and bring their best to be able to create value, to be able to not only create value for the organization, but also to create value that will actually help them to grow as leaders and to be able to be happy in whatever they're doing, because this elite leadership comes with also being happy. Because if you're not happy with what you're doing, if you're not happy with the environment where you actually work, it's going to be difficult to bring this elite leadership on the table. So I think there's a time cost, but there's also they need to invest money to be able to bring the right training for those leaders to become elite leaders.
Absolutely. Talk about sort of the short-term pain and the short-term sort of putting the profits that, yes, you'll get there, but you'll never really get there. Even if you get to a certain level of profitability, right? There is more for you that you're leaving on the table when you have not invested in your people. So Bret, pick it up from there and talk about sort of and what is the cost of becoming an elite leader? Why don't what do I have to sacrifice that I'm going to give up? But then is there also a cost for organizations involved as well?
Yeah, and I'm not going to repeat what Mireille. I agree with everything you just said. Those are all real costs, and so rather than repeating any of those, let me just build from that, and that is that the cost is career risk. Okay, and what I mean by that is that to do the things that we're talking about on this program requires that we clean up many of the things that I mentioned a while ago in terms of the toxic, the psychological safety, the lack of inclusive mindset. Those things all need to be hygiene. It takes time to do that. So one of the reasons why you need elite performers is that you need a few people that can deliver while those aspiring to be elite leaders are fixing these issues, firing these people, hiring the right people, providing the training, Rhonda, that you mentioned to leaders, right? They need, shame on them for appointing people and not investing in the people as well. That needs to be all part. But if I'm going to be an elite leader, that's risky to me because I've got people breathing down my neck to deliver numbers, right? Or to do, whatever's out there. And so, because all of these things that we're talking about, and you've got some great questions coming up in the dialogue here. This is all people. I think we all agree on this program that people need to come first, but in reality, okay, it requires leaders to take some risk and say, hang on here, I can't deliver 23% growth. I can deliver 13% growth, but I need to fix these issues. I need to take a lot of the time, resources, energy, and I need to invest it in this next generation of leaders so that we can be ready to better manage millennials and better manage Gen Z, who are totally different type of workforces. We need to invest in this now. So I would say that that's the biggest cost of elite leadership, is taking the career risk to say to your bosses, I need to do these things to put our people before the profits. But what I will give you in exchange for that is that 3 years from now, 5 years from now, okay, you can quantify it, is that we're going to have much more sustainable, higher profits because we're not going to have attrition. We're not going to have leaders that are appointed to positions and they don't know how to lead. so the learning curve is going to be much, much quicker to get up the learning curve, et cetera. So I'll kind of stop right
Mhm.
there, Rhonda. I hope that answers the question. I think that's the biggest cost of leadership, is taking the bold step to tell your bosses, hang on here. We can't continue to try to generate this 23% growth. We need to slow down here on this and fix these issues so that we can then, have better profits long term.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love this conversation. I want to bring in Constance's comment here as well. She really took the time to write out a thoughtful response for this question, which is the costs she believes are family, health, mental well being, friendship. Sometimes I see people change a lot. It really goes back to the individual efforts, their own biases, moral and ethical standards has to be strong so that it can't be shaken by anyone. So yeah, absolutely love that. And by the way, she also says, shout out to you, Bret. Hi from Cali.
Thank you, Dr. Leland.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's so important, those costs. Bret and Mireille, in the Leadership Mentoring and Coaching Academy, one of the modules that we cover for leaders is confidence. And I thought about this module, Bret, because what you're speaking to, having that conversation with leaders requires confidence, right? It
Yes.
requires you being grounded in yourself. It requires you being able to say to your leaders, yes, I understand. I get it. I know where we're trying to go, and I'm completely on board. Let me share with you what's in our way. Let me share with you what I need to do first in order to really get there. Let me share the incremental process and progress we can make. As you said, Bret, maybe it's not 23%, but it's 13% right now, and I can deliver 15% next year or whatever. But it requires a level of confidence to be
Yes.
able to have those difficult conversations. And that's another place that I see leaders struggle, that they don't have the confidence. They haven't set those boundaries. They're not grounded enough in themselves to know that if I'm having this conversation with you, it's because it's one from my heart, because I care and I am invested, not because I'm the negative Nancy. Forgive me if there are any Nancys out
Right.
there, but
We got your point.
personal.
We got your point.
But forgive me. I always do that. It's so funny when I say something like that and I'm conducting workshops. I'm always like, okay, is there a Nancy in the room first? Okay, if not, I'll use Sally or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So that people don't get offended. So I do think there's a couple of people, Mireille, I'm going to bring you in right now after
Okay.
this. Let me show this comment first. And hello, change maker. This is Tasia from North Carolina. Thanks for helping us flip the script. That is exactly what this conversation is about, Tasia.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining. So, Mireille, over to you.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, it's just a point that I wanted to bring is that even when you have this confidence, it's sometimes difficult, when everybody is in a certain environment to get the message true. And I still remember in some of my, you are seen as the troublemaker more than the person who really want to say, hey,
Yes.
let's stop and let's, to look at things differently. Because like, Bret was saying, they are chasing something. And if you come with an alternative that is going to take longer, you are the troublemaker. And, and it becomes very difficult to change anything in that setting.
Absolutely.
Mireille, you've nailed it. Yeah, Rhonda, if I could just say something
Absolutely, Bret.
off the back of that, because this is, in my opinion, the crux of the issue. And Mireille, you just articulated it much better than I did. And that is because that is real world, right? Where so if I'm one of those people, and am I going to have the courage to go to my boss and say, I can't do this, and still do the right thing for the company or the team? It doesn't have to be, I don't have to be a CEO to do this. So to be a team, because I need to invest in my people. I need to educate people. What does unconscious bias mean? I was several years into my career before I even knew what that meant. I didn't know what that thing was. And thank goodness I had a great leader that actually brought in somebody that taught us what unconscious bias was. I said, my gosh, I've got this. And by the way, every human being alive, if you've got a brain, you've got bias,
Yeah.
right? So, it is just the type of thing that it takes courage, but that's risky because most people will say, I can't risk my mortgage payment by
Right.
standing up to this. So I'm just going to kind of get by. And you know what? Here's the thing, back to my earlier point. When the sun is shining, it's okay. But when there's turbulence
Right.
and when there's a problem that you don't control, by the way, that's when things get out of control because then your lack of engagement starts to show, your attrition picks up. We've got the great resignations happening, right? So
Yep.
all of these things, it just accelerates. And it's so sad to see this because the answers are being revealed on Coffee with Rhonda
Yeah.
and the colleagues right now. But it's actually doing it. So you're right, Rhonda. In order to actually do these things, people need to. There's a big need out there for confidence coaching, and
Yeah.
how can I really build myself up to have the courage? One last thing that I want to say, and I'm going to seal my lips till you ask me to speak again, is I had a lot of coffee today. Okay, I'll blame it on
Cheers.
you and blame it on that. Yeah, cheers, right? So one of the things is that this whole short-term versus long-term mentality, right? Um, some people view it as boiling the ocean. You can't change it. But one thing, here's what I want everybody watching this to know. You hear the saying that the grass isn't greener on the other side, and if you're unhappy and you change firms, let me tell you something, okay? The grass is greener. Okay, there is green grass in companies, and there's plenty of them. If you're not getting, if you take our advice and you aren't happy with the outcome, and your bosses don't listen to you and say, why are you talking to me about this? You need to deliver 23% anyway. Leave. Find a firm, okay, because there are firms out there. There are people like the four of us on this video today that are leading companies, right?
Yep.
And you can find it. The grass is greener. Okay, please understand that. Don't fall. It's a myth, in my opinion, when you hear people say the grass isn't greener on the other side, because it can be. You just have to find it. Okay.
I love that. Let me go to Roz first. Roz, I don't know if you can speak. I just want to say, Roz, thank you so much for being just such a champion and trying to power through the tech difficulties. We will definitely get this worked out at some point. And I am so sorry that you have been so committed and we have not been able to bring your voice into this conversation. So I do just want to lift that up, and thank you for continuing to stay patient with us. I want to do our top two. We're going to do a quick top two. We haven't done this yet this season. And we take a question and we do, okay, what are your top twos, right? So if you're out there listening, we want you to do your top twos as well. So we are going to do our top twos. And let me give it to you. So before we do the introduction, when we come back, we'll quickly run through our top twos. And then we're going to talk about strategies. Then we're going to talk about what can people do if they want to become those elite performers. What can organizations do to create a culture that inspires elite performers to be able to show up and do their best work? So the top two question is, what are your top two superpowers? And I don't mean like superhero superpowers. I mean, what is it? We all have things that we do really well that are strengths of ours, a part of our character. What are your top two strengths? And I like to call them your superpowers. So we're going to talk about what those are. If you're out there and you're listening, I want you to type it into the chat for us. What are your top two superpowers? And we are going to go around with our panel and get their top two superpowers right after this. All right. So our top two superpowers. All right. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, go,
Bret.
Mireille, please.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay. So my top two, the first thing, I like to try new things. I'm not scared of, trying new things. So that's my first, and I hate being bored. And my second one is I like to dance. So those are my top two.
All right. I feel like on the Coffee with Rhonda show, we're going to have a dance off eventually, right? We got the little
Yes.
Coffee with Rhonda show bounce. We can definitely get that moving. So thank you, Mireille. Bret, your top 2 superpowers.
Number one, I compete with myself and myself only. And that took me a long time to learn that that's the way to operate, because it also makes a person happier. Number two, I my other superpower is the adversity quotient is very high. A lot of people talk about IQ and EQ. That's really important. So you've got to have those. But AQ and how you handle adversity is something that that is quite a unique skill in today's world.
All right. I love it. I love it. So Roz, when Roz was here, she said she loves being a troublemaker. Oh my goodness, Roz. Let's see. Constance says need and what. We've got so many great comments. Thank you all for participating. So let's get to a few superpowers there. Constance says my top 2 superpowers are collaboration and charisma. Let's see. Crystal says authenticity and empathy. Oh, love that. We've got Annette who says my top 2 superpowers are communication and delivery. Tasia says intentional listening and learning. I love this. That. And then Roz says my top 2 superpowers are consistency and listening. And the third one, causing trouble, Roz. Don't forget about that one. And then Kirk says ability to focus on people so I can get the results needed and listening. And for me, my top 2 superpowers, I think the first one is flexibility. I can just sort of look at the big picture and figure out how to go with it, you know, and not be an obstacle. I may have my own thoughts, beliefs, or whatever, but how really to be flexible so that we can get to the desired goal. My second superpower is problem solving. I love coming up with creative ways to solve problems. I don't think that any problem is insurmountable. It's just the lens through which we are looking at it. So I think sort of that's the way that I like to look at that. Roz says, I agree on the third one. Yes, Roz, totally. We definitely feel you on that one, but we love you anyway. So, all right. So let's get to, as we close for the show. First of all, let's do the what's in my cup. We got one more that came in. Favor says connecting easily with people and snapping pictures. All right, Favor.
I like that.
So,
yes.
So when I have the Leadership Above the Grind conference, I'll know who to call to help me take some great pictures. And then Maria Simonella says communication, flexibility, problem solving. No fair, Maria, that's 4. All right, so we're gonna go to a segment, and this is our closing segment, and we call it What's in Your Cup. And this is the segment where we really talk about sort of takeaways for the panel. Mireille and Bret, I want you all to focus on takeaways in terms of strategies. Right? What can people do if they want to become those elite performers? And what can organizations do? What can you do if you are a leader in your place to create space for people to do that? So in our closing segment, I want us to talk strategies. Before we do that, we didn't do this last week. We forgot our picture cup. So we've got to hold up our cup and take our picture. Let me get my cutter in the picture. All right, got it. Thank you so much. When we come back, so if you're out there watching, I want you to share, what did we put in your cup today? Start typing that in the comments, because this show, as much as it is about fun, it's also about inspiring, sharing, learning, growing. That's really why we show up here every single week, at least when we're in season. So we're going to come back in just a moment and talk about really what's in our cup. All right. So as we wrap up, I can't believe we are almost at an hour already. Holy cow. That was a fast hour. So Mireille, what do you want people to take away? What are you putting in people's cups in terms of strategies to become that elite performer?
So, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we had a fantastic conversation, but I think the thing that I really want people to take away is to be self-aware and understand that leadership starts with them, and have clarity of where they, of the environment where they operate and how they come across, because that's what she, and also have, like I was saying in the Greatness Minute, have a plan and a purpose, because you don't just do everything just randomly. You want to know where you start, which is the self-awareness part, and where you want to be, and fill the gap with any coaching, mentoring, or anything that can help you to get where you want to be.
I love, Mireille, that you say to fill that gap, right? So many times as leaders, we feel like we've arrived and I don't need coaching and mentoring because I'm a leader, right? I'm already a leader.
Mhm.
I'm the one doing the
Mhm.
coaching and mentoring. I don't know any great leaders. I don't know any elite performers that don't have coaches and mentors. I just don't.
Mhm.
And most of
Yeah.
them have multiples, right? So
Yeah.
I've got at least 4, right? And yes, you have to pay for them, but listen, you've got to invest in yourself at the level at
Mhm.
which you expect to perform, right? So
Yeah.
if you're going to put yourself on sale all the time because it's all about money, okay, you're going to limit your results. So I'm
Mhm.
never afraid to invest in myself, because if I don't invest in me, who will? Why should anyone else
Nobody.
invest in me when I'm not investing in myself? So Mireille, I love that you added that. So Bret,
Mhm.
as we wrap up and we share, sort of what's in our cup and our takeaway, also I want you to share how people can connect with you and learn, just kind of really engage with you, like I've been able to do. And Mireille on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, you're just an amazing, really inspiring and insightful voice on there. So share with us any strategies or takeaways for elite performance, and then how people can connect with you.
Sure. I'll do the former first, and just a comment on what Mireille talked about. My all-time sports idol is Tiger Woods. Okay,
Mhm.
I the things that he was able to accomplish. Okay, before he even played, he knew in his mind he would win, right? And then he just go out and do it, right? And but he had a coach, right? He
Mhm.
had a coach. His father played an important, role in his career and his success. And so if Tiger needs a coach, I need a coach. And so do all
Mhm.
of you, right? So, that's really the point here. Everybody needs a coach. I agree with you, Rhonda, on that. So in my cup, what I'd like for people to take away is number one, to be elite, prepare. Okay. Study up, understand what it is. You need to take the initiative, because stealing some of Rhonda's words, if you don't do it, nobody will. You prepare, you invest in yourself, you hire, it's worth it, right? If you spend $700-800 on a new smartphone, when was the last time you spent $700 or $800 on yourself? Okay,
Mhm.
prepare, study up. It doesn't cost that much money, right? You know, you update, Apple sends out a software update every what, 6, 8, 10 weeks, maybe something like that, because technology is evolving. When was the last time you updated yourself? Right. So
Mhm.
please think about that. So number one is prepare. Number two in my cup that I'll give to everybody is, after you've prepared, just trust. Trust that preparation. Okay. Don't second guess yourself. Take some confidence training, like Rhonda mentioned, if that's what it is. But whatever it is, just trust that work that you've done, okay? And just go out there and do it, okay? You'd be surprised. You'll be elite if you do these two things: prepare and trust that preparation. And to get hold
Mm.
of me, probably the easiest way is LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. I'm also on the other channels as well, but more active there as well. So you have access to me. I post every day from I kept a handwritten journal every day of my corporate career since 1988. I've got 89 books with
Wow.
concepts. That's all I write about. So they all come from they're real life situations that I went through. Were they all handled properly? No, they weren't, but that's where the learning is. And so please feel free to engage with me. And I've just been this has been the most delightful hour, not just with the three of you, but also the audience. What great questions! So it just made my Saturday.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Brett, for being here. As I think about the takeaways that I want people to walk away from this conversation with, I want them to think about what elite leadership is for them, right? What that means to you, what it looks like, how it shows up in your life and your day. What does it mean in terms of your family and honoring and setting boundaries that allow you to be whole, healthy, and happy, right? So, really defining what elite leadership is. I don't want anyone to walk away from this conversation feeling like elite leadership means I got to be working 16 hours a day and I got to be grinding. Listen, I lead above the grind, and that includes elite leadership, right? It's not about being in that mix or anything. So I think that's a really important part of it. And then I want you to really work on the confidence needed to execute. Right. Mireille talked about the plan, but if you lack confidence, that you will not execute on that plan, or you'll sort of half-ass it, excuse my expression, right? Because you don't have the confidence to really go all the way. So once you define it for yourself, really work on building your strength, skill set, and confidence so that you can move forward in that. And then finally, hold yourself accountable with grace. Right? Give yourself grace and love and space. This is about performance, not perfection, right? Perfection doesn't exist. So lean into it.
Right.
No, you're going to scrape your knee. You're going to fall down. You're going to do all of those things, but you're still on the road and it's okay. So that's the ending for me. I am just going to say thank you to our audience, to our guests, and that thank you for being here and listening to us sort of have fun and share with all of you. We do this work because of you. So your comments inspire us, empower us. They make us smile. We've had some pretty deep kind of sofa-like conversations on this show. So thank you. I want to say a huge thank you to my amazing co-host. I'm so sorry again that Roz couldn't really stay tuned in with us. Mireille, you are amazing. Always grace under fire. Thank you so much.
Sure are.
As always. And then Brett, I want to thank you. And I want to say to everybody, don't forget to follow this amazing, amazing leader to build elite performance when it matters most. Follow hashtag the Packard Network. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the show with us. And we really do thank you for being here. So with that, I am going to say thanks to everyone. We'll see you all back here next week. For my guest and co-host, stay tuned for just a minute. For everyone else, we look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of the Coffee with Rhonda Show. Keep leading above the grind.